ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثتها فكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Indeed, brothers and sisters, the praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His assistance, and we ask for His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evil within our own selves and from the evil consequences of our bad deeds. Whoever Allah guides, then no one can mislead that individual. And whoever Allah leaves to be astray, then no one can guide them. I bear witness, I give testimony that there is no deity, there is no God in truth, worthy of worship other than Allah. He is alone and without any partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his final prophet and messenger. O you who believe, fear Allah, be mindful, be aware, be conscious of Him, and say that which is, and do not die except in the state of Islam. Do not pass away unless you have submitted your will to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. O mankind, fear your Lord, be mindful, be aware of your Lord, who has created you from a single soul, from its mates, from both of them numerous men and women, and He spread them throughout the earth. And be mindful, be aware of your Lord, be aware of Allah, from whom you demand, from whom you ask, from whom you request your rights. Indeed, Allah is ever a watcher over you. O you who believe, be mindful, be aware, be conscious of Allah, and say that which is correct. If you do this, Allah will rectify your affairs and forgive you of your sins. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, indeed they have achieved the greatest achievement. As to what follows, the most truthful book is the book of Allah. The best of speech is the speech of Allah. And the best way to implement and understand the book of Allah is through the guidance of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the worst of affairs are those things which are introduced into this understanding of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. For these things, brothers and sisters, they are a heresy. And every heresy leads us astray, and every astray leads us to the hellfire. Brothers and sisters, we thank Allah for this moment, for allowing us to be present on this day of Jumu'ah, to be present performing this great act of worship, to be present in one of His houses. We thank Him for this. And we thank Him for this new time that we are about to enter. As we look around at our, for example, lawns, our backyards, maybe the open fields around us, we notice that the plants, the vegetation, the life is coming back to them. The cycle right? That repeats itself throughout the different seasons. And many of us are aware that if we want to plant, that this is the time to do so. This is the time for us to prepare the soil. This is the time for us to prepare the seeds. This is the time to prepare everything that is necessary so we can, in a few months, bi'idhnillah, reap the benefits, so we can harvest, so we can get what we put in, inshaAllah ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeatedly reminds us or uses the plant cycles, the vegetation, as examples. And also throughout the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find numerous examples of the vegetation and how it functions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Ibrahim, the chapter of Abraham, He says to us, أَلَمْ تَرَى كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا كَلِمَةً طَيِّبَةً كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتٌ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ يُؤْتِي أُكُلَهَا كُلَّ حِينٍ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهَا وَيَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah tells us, brothers and sisters, have you not seen how Allah presents an example, making a good word like a good tree, whose root is firmly fixed and its branches high in the sky. It produces its fruit all the time by the permission of its Lord. And Allah presents examples for the people that perhaps they will be reminded. Brothers and sisters, can we please squeeze in, make room for your brothers and sisters? Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhu, the great companion of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gives us an explanation of these verses. He says, مثلا كلمة طيبة شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله كشجرة طيبة هو المؤمن أصلها ثابت لا إله إلا الله في قلب المؤمن وفرعها في السماء يقول يرفع بها عمل المؤمن إلى السماء. Ibn Abbas, he explains these verses to us, and he is a great companion of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he said that the example of a good word is the testimony. That good word is the testimony that La ilaha illallah. And that tree, the good tree, that's the believer. The roots are the testimony in a believer's heart. And the branches in the sky are the deeds of a believer rising into heaven. So brothers and sisters, we have to examine our faith. We have to check. We have the ability to look at our faith and examine it and see where it stands. Because the reality, brothers and sisters, is that we might find ourselves by ourselves. It is up to us to hold on to our iman. The trials, the tribulations, the tests will be there. You need that money, but that loan is full of interest. You're in seclusion with that brother. You're in seclusion with that sister. Life is hard. You want to go back to your old ways. Brothers and sisters, this is the reality. Every time, every moment, our faith is tested. And it's up to us as individuals to choose the appropriate responses. Brothers and sisters, we see from the example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that if the roots are there, if we are rooted in iman, then there's always the possibility of life. There's always the possibility of fruits. However, brothers and sisters, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gives us some guidance. He gives us some help concerning how to maintain and keep our faith. عن أبي عمرو وقيل أبي عمرة سفيان بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه قال قلت يا رسول الله قل لي في الإسلام شيئا لا أسأله عنه أحدا غيرك قال قل آمنت بالله ثم استقم. وفي رواية أخرى قلت يا رسول الله حدثني بأمر أعتصم به قال قل ربي الله ثم استقم. قلت يا رسول الله ما أخوف ما تخاف عليه فأخذ بلسان نفسه ثم قال هذا. وفي رواية أخرى يا رسول الله مرني بأمر في الإسلام لا أسأل عنه أحدا بعدك قال قل آمنت بالله ثم استقيم. قلت فما أتقي قال فأومأ إلى لسانه. رواه أحمد والنسائي. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or this man Abu Amr or Abu Amra, they say his name could also be Abu Amra, Sufyan ibn Abdullah. He asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, O Messenger of Allah, tell me a statement about Islam such that I will ask of only you and I don't have to ask anyone else. He answered, the Messenger ﷺ answered, say, I believe in Allah and then be steadfast. That is collected by Imam Muslim. In a similar tradition, he says, tell me a statement that I may hold firmly to. The Prophet ﷺ answered him, say, my Lord is Allah, and then be steadfast. So he said to him, O Messenger of Allah, what is it? What is the thing you fear the most? So he took, the Messenger of Allah took his own tongue and he said, Hada. And in the final narration, he said, O Messenger of Allah, give me an order such that I will not ask anyone else. He said, say, I believe in Allah and be steadfast. And then he asked him as well, and what should I be mindful of? What should I be conscious of? So he demonstrated again to his tongue. And this is recorded by Imam Ahmad and then Nasa'i. So brothers and sisters, this great companion, he wasn't asking from a perspective of wanting to seclude himself from the people. He wasn't asking because he was antisocial, because he didn't want to deal with the people. That was not why he was asking. And we know this because he obtained positions of leadership within the Muslim rulership early on. So he was a leader. He was well established within the Muslim community. But if we look, brothers and sisters, at this advice, which is to say to ourselves, I believe in Allah, and then be upright. If we look at that statement within an American context, if we look at the earliest Muslims in these lands, they understood this statement and they applied it. Before the Catholics, before the Protestants and their King James Version or translation of the Bible, before the constitutions of any of these nation states, the Muslims, brothers and sisters, understood these statements and applied them in these lands. The great scholar Sylviane Diouf, she says, in America, the Shahada manifested itself in three ways. Affirmation of the African's faith in Allah and His Prophet, Muhammad ﷺ. Rejection of conversion to Catholicism or Protestantism. And when necessary, pseudo conversion. And she also highlights in this book how the Spanish passed many decrees to try to prevent the people from those parts of Africa coming over to America because of their commitment to Islam and because of their willingness to spread Islam to the peoples around them. Even, brothers and sisters, we see in the these early African Muslims, they left many writings in Arabic concerning their faith and their deen. This is the reality, brothers and sisters. We might find ourselves, by ourselves, your wife, your husband, your children, what you're familiar with, your culture, everything can be removed from you. And it is just you, like they say, and Allah and a rock. So brothers and sisters, the explanation of this statement, I believe in Allah, and then be upright. We see this companion, he requested something from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that was comprehensive, that was complete, that was sufficient. And we find support of this in the Quran as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, brothers and sisters, in Surah Al-Ahqaf, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Indeed, those who have said, our Lord is Allah, and then remain on a right course, there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. And this term, al-istiqama, or steadfastness, we'll look at the technical meaning of it. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the great companion of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he explained that one part, ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. He explained that part, then they are upright, as لَمْ يُشْرِكُوا بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا. Brothers, can we please move up, squeeze in a little more, make some space, brothers and sisters. So this term, we'll look at the definition by the companions and the scholars. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, for example, he explained, then they are upright. He said, لَمْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا. They do not associate anything along with Allah. وَلَمْ يَلْتَفِتُوا إِلَىٰ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ. He said also, they do not turn to any other deity besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he said, ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا عَلَىٰ أَنَّ اللَّهَ رَبَّهُمْ. And then they are steadfast upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being their Lord. So other pious predecessors, brothers and sisters and scholars, brothers and sisters and other scholars, they mentioned that this istiqamah, this steadfastness, is being upright or being steadfast upon La ilaha illallah. Some of them said it is being upright upon completing the obligatory actions. Some of them said it is being steadfast by rectifying our sincerity and actions. And others have said it is being steadfast by obeying Allah. And one of the companions, the Tabi'un, his name is Al-Hasan, he said he would make this dua after reading this portion of the verse. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. He would say, Allahumma anta rabbana farzuqna al-istiqamah. He would say, oh Allah, you are our Lord, so provide for us the steadfastness. The basis, brothers and sisters, of this steadfastness and this uprightness is in the heart. Is in the heart. And the heart must embrace the oneness of Allah. And the more firm the heart is, the more firm the limbs will be. So brothers and sisters, if our hearts are firm, then inshallah our limbs will respond. So no matter, brothers and sisters, what the circumstances may be, we have to remember that Allah has honored us. Allah has honored us to know His name. Allah has honored us to know who He is. How many of our fellow human beings here in these lands are not aware of the name of Allah? Just this one beautiful name. Have no awareness of what it means, of who He is. But Allah has honored us to know these things, brothers and sisters. He has honored us to know His message. We have to remind ourselves of this, brothers and sisters, by simply saying to yourself, He said, Qul, say to yourself, I believe in Allah. I believe in Allah. No matter what the challenges are, no matter what the circumstances you might find yourself in, tell yourself, even if it's to yourself. I'm not saying proclaim it out loud and go shout it. Say it to yourself. I believe in Allah. I'm not going to leave this faith. I'm not going to abandon what Allah has guided me to. I'm not going to turn away from it after He has guided me to it. Brothers and sisters, Allah knows. He knows your circumstances. He's not interested in your wealth, in your resources. He wants your devotion. He wants your sincere intention. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is requesting from us, brothers and sisters. There's no looking back. We can't look back. We know Allah's name. We know this deen. There's only room, inshallah, to move forward. And if we do this, brothers and sisters, then Allah will always be by our side. He will always be there to support us, subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنوب إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. And connected, brothers, we see that He is telling us to verbally proclaim this, to say it repeatedly and constantly. And this tells us, in other parts of the hadith, He also mentioned that the thing He was afraid the most of was His own speech, His own tongue, His words that come out from Him. This is what He was concerned the most about. Right? He didn't say believe in Allah and also be mindful. Be mindful of your speech, brothers and sisters. We have to be mindful of what we say. Our speech is the interpreter of our heart, and it expresses what's in the heart. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he tells us in an authentic hadith, he says, لا يستقيم إيمان العبد حتى يستقيم قلبه ولا يستقيم قلبه حتى يستقيم لسانه. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, the servant's faith isn't steadfast until his heart is steadfast. And his heart is not steadfast until his tongue or his speech is steadfast. So brothers and sisters, we have to make this effort. This is simple advice, but it's advice that we can carry wherever we may be, under whatever circumstances we might find ourselves. We have to choose. We have to make that effort. We have to make that effort to choose, to remind ourselves, I believe in Allah. This is who I am. This is how I begin and I end everything. I'm a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because, brothers and sisters, the reality is life is going to come at us. Very difficult circumstances, very difficult challenges. But we have to remember, brothers and sisters, that we believe in Allah and that this should be our initial response to everything. Our language is an indicator of whether or not we have understood and submitted and recognized the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. our speech? Or do we have, other things that cause our speech to show the reality of our devotion, of our connection? Right? There's a test. I have to study. I have to prepare. Oh, I have the key. This is a very important test. If I pass this test, I'm okay. I will get that degree. I will get that new job. So maybe this time I'll look at that master key that I shouldn't be looking at. We have to make these decisions. It's up to us, brothers and sisters, to check our iman and see where it lies. And one of the best ways to do that is to constantly remind ourselves that we believe in Allah. Start from there. That is very powerful and very potent and can help us in tremendous ways, brothers and sisters, because with time, it will keep us steadfast, inshallah ta'ala. The day in, day out, you might slip up, you might make a mistake, you might commit a sin, brothers and sisters, but the reality is that as Muslims, we hold on to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we don't abandon what He has guided us to. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brothers and sisters, to make us of those who believe. We ask Him to make us of those who mention His name, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who remember Him often. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those that say which is correct and say that which is best. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the Imam of this masjid, to bless his family,